The world had cracked. Like old pottery, it shattered into dust and silence. The Great Disaster, they called it. Now only whispers of the before times remained. Aya lived in Crackbone Ridge. It was a settlement clinging to the edge of a vast, unforgiving desert. The sun beat down without mercy. Every day was a fight for survival. Food was scarce. Water was more precious than gold. Hope was a fragile, almost forgotten thing. People's faces were etched with hardship, their eyes holding a deep weariness. Yet they endured, a small cluster of humanity against a ruined world. Aya was young, but her spirit was old. She had seen too much emptiness. She knew the taste of hunger. She understood the ache of thirst. Each morning she would venture out. She searched for scraps of metal, anything to trade. She looked for edible roots, often finding only bitter dust. The wind whispered tales of despair through the canyons. It carried the scent of sand and sorrow. She learned to walk quietly, to observe, to listen to the faint pulse of a dying land. Her small hands were calloused, her clothes patched, but in her heart, a tiny spark refused to die. The elders of Crackbone Ridge sometimes spoke of the past. They talked of endless green fields. They remembered rivers flowing with clear water. They described skies so blue they hurt your eyes. Aya listened to these stories. They sounded like impossible dreams, like fairy tales from another universe. She tried to imagine such a world without the constant grit of sand in her mouth, a world where laughter wasn't a rare, startled bird. The contrast made her present even harsher. It made the struggle almost unbearable sometimes, but it also planted a tiny seed of what if. Despite the bleakness, Aya carried a quiet defiance. She wouldn't let the desert swallow her whole. She wouldn't let her spirit turn to dust like everything else. There had to be something more than just surviving, more than the gnawing emptiness of their days. The secret longing pulsed within her. It was a quiet rebellion against the despair that surrounded her. She yearned for a touch of green, a whisper of life in the endless brown. This hidden hope was her shield against the harshness of Crackbone Ridge. It was the first stirrings of a change she couldn't yet name. One sweltering afternoon, Aya wandered further than usual. She was tracking a scrawny desert hare, a rare prize. The chase led her to a crumbling rock formation. It was a place the elders warned against. They said spirits of the ruined world haunted it, but hunger was a stronger force than fear. As she climbed over loose scree, the ground suddenly groaned. It shifted beneath her small feet with a terrifying rumble. A section of the earth gave way. Aya tumbled down into darkness. A startled cry caught in her throat. The fall was short but shocking. She landed hard on a sandy floor, the air thick with ancient dust. Panic clawed at her. She was trapped, alone, underground. The only light came from the jagged hole far above. It was a mocking sliver of the harsh sky. She took a deep breath, fighting back tears. She had to stay calm. She felt around, her hands brushing against cold, smooth stone. Not natural rock. This was something made, something built. As her eyes adjusted to the dim light, she saw a faint, almost imperceptible glow. It pulsed rhythmically from deeper within the cavern. Curiosity, stronger than her fear, pulled her forward. She had to know what it was. Following the faint light, she came upon a structure. It was a large circular metal door set deep into the rock wall. Words were etched onto its surface, barely visible beneath layers of grime. Eden Core 3 Bioreclamation Lab. Aya traced the letters with a trembling finger. Lab? What was a lab doing here, buried beneath the wasteland? A strange mix of excitement and trepidation filled her. This was something new, something unknown, something that didn't belong to the dead world above. The door had a heavy sealed look, but a small panel beside it was slightly ajar. With a surge of adrenaline, Aya pushed against the panel. It creaked open, revealing a recessed handle. She pulled. The heavy door hissed, then slowly, laboriously, swung inward. A wave of cool, moist air washed over her. It smelled of damp earth, of life. She stepped inside, her heart pounding, and then she saw it. Rows upon rows of plants, green, vibrant, impossible plants, bathed in a soft artificial light. It was a garden, a secret, thriving garden hidden beneath the end of the world. Tears streamed down Aya's face, not of sorrow, but of overwhelming, unbelievable joy. Hope, real and tangible, bloomed in her chest. The underground garden was a miracle. It was a symphony of green in a world of brown. Lush leaves unfurled towards the gentle lights. Tiny flowers bloomed in a riot of colors Aya had only dreamed of. Fruits and vegetables hung heavy on their vines. The air was sweet with the scent of growth. Aya walked through the aisles in a daze. She touched a soft leaf, a plump tomato. It felt more real than anything in Crackbone Ridge. This place pulsed with life. It was a vibrant heart beating beneath the desolate skin of the earth. It was a promise whispered from the past, a testament to someone's unwavering belief in rebirth. On a small metallic desk in a corner, Aya found a data pad. It flickered to life when she touched it. A journal. The entries were signed Dr. Lena Miles. Dr. Miles was the architect of this hidden Eden. Her words painted a picture of a brilliant, determined scientist. She had foreseen the coming disaster. She had built this sanctuary, not for herself, but for the future, for a time when the world might be ready to heal. Her last entry spoke of dwindling power, of a desperate hope that someone would find Eden Core 3, that someone would understand its purpose, that someone would carry on her work. Aya read Dr. Miles's words for hours. The scientist's passion ignited something within her. Dr. Miles wrote about the power of a single seed, about the resilience of life, about the responsibility to nurture and protect it. Aya felt a profound connection to this woman she had never met. Dr. Miles's hope became Aya's hope. Her mission became Aya's mission. It was a heavy burden. It was a sacred trust. The journal contained detailed instructions: how to care for the plants, how to manage the life support systems, how to harvest the seeds. It was a blueprint for a new beginning. Aya knew then what she had to do. She would become the caretaker of this garden. She would protect Dr. Miles's legacy. She would learn to nurture these precious plants. The thought was daunting. She was just one girl, untrained, alone. But the sight of the vibrant green, the feel of the cool, moist air, the hopeful words of Dr. Miles, they filled her with a courage she didn't know she possessed. This garden was more than just food. It was a symbol. It was proof that life could endure. It was a whisper of a future where the world wasn't just dust and despair. Aya made a silent promise. She would not let this Eden die. With newfound purpose, I began my work. I learned the rhythms of the garden. I tended to the intricate systems that kept it alive. The gentle hum of the purifiers became my lullaby. The soft glow of the grow lights, my sun. Soon the plants thrived under my care. I harvested ripe fruits and vegetables. Their taste was an explosion of flavor, so different from the bland, gritty food of Crackbone Ridge. My first thought was to share. I imagined the joy on the children's faces. I pictured the relief for the hungry elders. This bounty was too precious to keep to myself. It was meant to be given. Carefully, I brought a small basket of food back to my settlement. I offered it to my neighbors. I explained, my voice trembling with excitement about the hidden place of life. But their faces were not filled with joy. They were filled with suspicion. Where did this food come from? Was it safe? Was it some kind of trick? Their eyes, accustomed to scarcity, could not comprehend such abundance. Fear, not gratitude, was their first reaction. They had lived with hardship for so long. Trust was a withered plant in their hearts. They pushed my offerings away. They whispered about dark magic, about things best left undisturbed. My heart ached with disappointment. I had expected wonder, maybe even tears of relief. Instead, I found a wall of doubt. The adults were too set in their ways, too afraid of the unknown. The desert had taught them harsh lessons. Anything new was potentially dangerous. Anything easy was suspect. They preferred the familiar struggle to an uncertain miracle. Only a few of the very young children looked at the vibrant food with longing eyes. Their curiosity hadn't yet been entirely extinguished by the harsh realities of our world. They looked, but their parents pulled them away, muttering warnings. Undeterred, I refused to give up completely. I couldn't force them to accept my gift. I couldn't make them believe. But perhaps I could plant a different kind of seed. I began to secretly teach a few of the more curious children. I showed them how to coax life from tiny seeds in small hidden patches of soil. I shared the simplest knowledge from Dr. Miles's journal. I taught them the feel of good earth, the patience of waiting for a sprout. It was a slow, quiet rebellion, a small act of defiance against the prevailing despair. These children at least might learn to trust the green again. One evening, as I was carefully tending to a new row of seedlings in the garden, I sensed I was not alone. My heart leaped into my throat. I turned, ready to defend my precious sanctuary. A young man stood in the doorway. He was tall and lean, with watchful eyes that had seen too much of the wasteland. His name was Cole. He was known in Crackbone Ridge as a quiet observer, a skilled scavenger. He had followed me, not out of malice, but out of a deep, unspoken curiosity. He had seen the change in me, the secret light in my eyes. I expected him to raise an alarm, to condemn me, to expose the garden to the fearful community. Instead, Cole looked around the vibrant, glowing space with an expression of pure awe. He He had seen the suspicious whispers in the settlement. He had seen my quiet attempts to share. He didn't speak for a long time. He simply walked among the plants, his calloused fingers gently brushing against a leaf. Then he looked at me. There was no accusation in his gaze, only a profound understanding, and perhaps a flicker of the same hope that burned within me. He recognized the miracle before him. "This place," Cole finally said, his voice soft, "it's real." He understood the garden's importance. He saw its potential. He also saw the danger I was in. Protecting such a treasure alone was an impossible task. He offered his help, not with grand words but with a simple nod, a promise of shared responsibility. I, who had carried my secret and my hope alone for so long, felt a wave of relief. I was no longer the sole guardian. I had an ally, someone who believed, someone who would stand with me. Together, Cole and I worked to maintain Eden Core 3. Cole was strong and resourceful. He helped reinforce the entrance. He scavenged for spare parts to keep the aging systems running. He stood guard while I tended to my delicate charges. We spoke little, but a deep bond formed between us. It was a bond forged in shared purpose and a mutual love for this fragile oasis of life. We knew our secret was precarious. The world outside was harsh and unforgiving. But within the garden's walls, with each other's support, hope felt a little stronger, a little safer. Our fragile peace was not to last. Word of a hidden source of abundance, however garbled, began to spread beyond Crackbone Ridge. It reached the ears of the cleaners. They were a ruthless group from a larger, more powerful settlement. They believed in order through control. They believed that any resource, any anomaly, belonged to them. They saw difference as a threat. Their scouts were seen near the outskirts of Crackbone Ridge. Their presence cast a long, cold shadow. Fear rippled through the small community. The cleaners were known for their brutality. They took what they wanted. They destroyed what they couldn't control. Cole and I knew the cleaners would eventually find the garden. They were too efficient, too relentless. The thought of those brutal hands touching the delicate plants, of their harsh voices echoing in the sacred space, was unbearable. We fortified the entrance as best we could. We prepared for the inevitable. But we were just two people against a well-armed force. The people of Crackbone Ridge, still suspicious and fearful, offered no help. They only wanted the cleaners to pass them by, leaving them to their meager existence. I felt a cold dread settle in my heart. Was this how it ended? The day came when the cleaners arrived in force. They demanded entry to the anomaly they had heard about. Their leader was a cold, hard man with eyes like chips of ice. He promised order, he promised control, but I saw only destruction in his gaze. He would strip the garden bare. He would take its secrets. He would extinguish its light. We couldn't fight them, not directly. But I looked at the rows of thriving plants. I thought of Dr. Miles's dream. I thought of the future. I would not let that dream die here in the dark under the boot of tyranny. A desperate idea sparked in my mind. Dr. Miles's journal mentioned a long-range dispersal drone. It was designed to scatter seeds over vast distances, a last resort. It was a one-way trip for the precious cargo. If the garden was to be destroyed, its essence, its future, would not be. While Cole created a diversion, delaying the cleaners at the entrance, I raced to the drone's hidden compartment. My hands shook as I loaded it with packets of every seed variety in Eden Core 3. It was a choice between saving the physical place and saving its promise. I chose the promise. I chose the air. I chose the world. With a heavy heart, I launched the drone. It soared out of a hidden exhaust port, a tiny speck against the vast, indifferent sky. It carried with it the hope of 1,000 gardens. The cleaners, enraged by the delay and the discovery of the now emptying lab, finally broke through. They found a space already giving up its treasures. They found Cole and me, defiant but with nothing left for them to seize in the way they wanted. In the chaos and their fury, the cleaners destroyed much of the garden's infrastructure. But the most vital part, the seeds, were already gone. Cole and I, seizing a moment amidst the destruction, managed to escape into the labyrinthine tunnels beyond Eden Core 3. We left Crackbone Ridge behind. We carried with us only a few tools, a handful of seeds we had saved, and the knowledge from Dr. Miles's journal. Our journey was long and arduous. We traveled through desolate landscapes. We faced hunger, thirst, and danger, but we were not without purpose. Wherever we found a sheltered spot, a patch of forgotten soil, a trickle of hidden water, we planted our seeds, quietly, secretly. We taught the few receptive souls we met along the way. We shared our knowledge, our hope, just as I had tried to do with the children of Crackbone Ridge. Years turned into decades. Cole and I grew older. Our hair grayed, Our hands became more gnarled, but our spirits remained young, fueled by our quiet mission. We never saw Adencourt 3 again. We never knew the full extent of the drone's success. But sometimes, in the distance, we would see a smudge of green on the horizon. A patch of unfamiliar growth in a place that had once been barren. Was it our doing? Was it the work of the seeds scattered by the wind, carried by the drone years ago? We could never be certain, but each hint of new life was a validation. One day, standing on a high ridge, I looked out over a valley, and I saw it. Not just a patch of green, but a young forest. Trees reached for the sky. Undergrowth carpeted the once scorched earth. Birds I hadn't heard since childhood sang in the branches. Tears welled in my eyes. It was a sight I thought I would never live to see. The world was healing slowly, imperfectly, but it was healing. Dr. Miles's dream, my own desperate act of faith, Cole's steadfast support, it had all mattered. Hope, I realized, was like a seed, small, insignificant, easily crushed. But if planted and nurtured even in the harshest soil, it could grow. It could change the world, one tiny, courageous sprout at a time.